People, let me tell you, the cremation process of a dead body. Seeming I have experience with this. Seeming there was an individual, yes. There's individuals, in fact, in my family that have dropped dead, as in laid there, and yet wasn't put to rest. Even going into a week and how the body, see the JHOLIE Moussa, there's in fact nothing to be hidden on that side. There's nothing at all to be hidden by the family on the end of JHOLIE Moussa. There never can be when it comes to a dead body, and how that sort of thing in fact carry maggots. As in how you have a dead body that's laying there and it's not put on ice. See, when somebody dies, a dead body, in order to have a funeral and all the rest, a dead body has to be in fact, yes, put on ice suddenly by a coroner's office. Who doesn't know that? There's, yeah, a dead body. Anyway, like, subscribe in the Discovery Channel. Yes, the Discovery Channel, the link is provided below. That is in fact who I work for, so I know what I'm saying. Oprah Winfrey as well. When it comes to mass media coverage, I'm behind, yes, mass media coverage over at Discovery, despite me being online. To work from home as well as to work in office, however you choose to do, is to say that sort of thing can in fact go. The telecommunications, yes, pertaining to Discovery Communications, Discovery Inc. So therefore, me stating that I know what I'm speaking on. Yes, I do work in mass media. Thank you. As in the reply, right? So, and me saying, that's not gonna work. There's no way a child's body can be found in a casket after she has laid out in the air and possibly night air and all the rest for days on end, leading up until 2 weeks, and then maggots not being there, as in crawling all over the child's body. I know for a fact that has to have taken place. Ask any coroner's office, they would in fact tell you. Didn't I just say about my family member how you have family members that drop dead and then they're in the house or they're anywhere outside, especially outside. Somebody dropped dead outside and then the body is not found after the first week. See, if you're going to have a body laying there, completely laying there and possibly fully dressed, or maybe not, depending on the situation, such as a rape, that sort of thing happened to young people too. But saying the individual is fully clothed is still to say that maggots are in fact there. Maggots feed on a body, such as a host and all the other stuff. JHOLIE's dead body was in fact a host to maggots. This sort of thing the family wouldn't never say, because more than likely the coroner's office wouldn't have told that sort of thing. Because to not tamper in on some grieving is to leave that sort of thing to rest, as well as in the gruesome aspect of what a coroner's office will tell you, but they won't if you're not family. I myself can contact any type of coroner's office at any time of the day, and that sort of thing would in fact be told to me, and yet that sort of thing is not needed, because remember, people in my family have in fact dropped dead, yes, and their body was found, yes, and maggots more than likely were there, yes. That is just to say that's a proven. Maggots more than likely was crawling all over that child's body, and yet you just can't see it because you're not there. And yet a coroner's office or whoever else would have never told that mother in life that sort of thing was taking place. It was. Believe me, there's no second guessing on this. That mother wouldn't have been able to handle even that herself, as in a coroner's office telling her, well, sorry, ma'am, we can't put your child's dead body in the casket knowing maggots is all over it. That's not going to work, because see, anytime somebody could walk up to the casket and there you stand as a mother and there's maggots coming all crawling all out of the casket. You see what that would do? You don't know how that mother would be able to take that sort of thing. She might in fact go off herself, as in blow her own lights out. You don't know, with a gun or something, because that's not going to work. That's not going to work to have a child laid to rest in a casket for all people to see, even family, friends, family associates, business associates, people that don't really know the family but want to come and support anyway, and there your child sits. That's embarrassing. That's completely embarrassing, to have a child in a casket and then maggots and everything else start crawling out, because remember, they feed on the dead body. The body is a host. That sort of thing will take place as soon as a person's dead within a matter of days. Anybody see, this is one of those things where when I was saying a few years back how people, they can't work in mass media, right? They cannot work in mass media because, see, to do stuff to try to mislead the public, as in put out false information of why somebody, that's not to say the gentleman in which I enjoy his videos right here on YouTube pertaining to him questioning. I watch, in my private time, I watch all type of stuff. TV shows on YouTube. I do all type of things in my private time, and I'm in fact show that, yes, I'm gonna record it one of these days of what I like to watch when I'm just chilling, because I like stuff that's informative. But not only that, sometimes when I'm on YouTube, there be random stuff popping up in my recommendations, and that individual just happened to be one of them. The one that tried to go and contact the funeral home, and I mentioned him and I said a shout out to him. That's not saying that's not saying he's misleading the public, but some people wouldn't be able to think for themselves to go outside of that to say, well, let me go research and look why that sort of thing could be done by the family, as in, are they trying to keep something hidden, or is that a scientific truth set on top of what I just said in the opening of my video? That's not saying he's misleading. A person at any time can put out information, and yet it's up to you, the viewer, to try to go much further, as in diving in on the research, which is why so many individuals cannot in fact work in mass media the way that I can and do, because that there's more to that you can't do that. That's not gonna work. A beautiful face like this was deteriorating as soon as the signs of death was set. That's me right there. I'm a crooked OG myself right there. Shouts out to a player. That photo you just saw, that was me. I had to put that because people be like, well, take your shades off. We can't see. Do you got something to hide yourself? No, I sit cool. I'm chill, laid back right here. Anybody that know me know I'm an OG. It's people that call me on the phone, be like, what's up with your OG? To come from the hood is to know what playground I in fact came from. And yet I ain't playing there no more, as in playing games with any of them, because yes, they could be all killed off, as in die off where people was trying to break in and out of my house and possibly could have raped and killed me in the process. That type of thing I leave alone. But back to a burial and the mother. God knows she's fine. If I had a girlfriend like that, I would show her off all time of the day, as in set her face possibly on BT for all eyes to see her. Be like, anybody see my wife? And show that lovely face, because it need to be seen. That's on the TV screen everywhere. Dear mom, she do. But that's just right. As soon as the child, listen to me, because I'm gonna go into the search even on that, because see, people, they don't, that's why I'm saying when people can't work in mass media the way that I do, that's because they don't know how to properly research. There's more to this, and the reason why I'm saying that, I'm not saying him, I'm saying when you go and you look at the comment section, and people actually, they in a sense believe what he's saying. That's the intention, right? Because to persuade somebody is to have them follow you, and then they're thinking your thoughts or whatever, what you said about why would some parents try to hide something. That's not me speaking on him. That's speaking on his followers of having the decision, yes, proper decision to research. To not be able to do that is to leave it alone and not try to get any type of job in the industry, Hollywood industry, mass media industry. That's a no-go, because you would even mess up yourself and possibly get fired, where the corporation will feel that you're misleading the public, as in a misguiding, right? You try to come close to the facts enough, right? And so in me saying that, yeah, that's not going to work. I in fact had a blood relative. You can go ask my grandmother about this. There was, in fact, a blood relative of mine that was killed by KKK. That sort of thing the family really don't sit and talk about. Yet I can sit and bring my grandma right here on this camera, and she can break that down to a science of how the KKK have killed one of our blood relatives. If you kill somebody, once again, in that, it's to know if you lay them out there and they're just laying out, whether it's cold, summertime, windy, fall, whatever the temperature is, it could be below zero. And a child's body is out there, maggots are still going to want to get to it, because remember, it's exposed to the air, which is why you have a coroner's office to prevent any type of anything touching that body till it meets, yes, a funeral home in order to have a funeral. That's why that's why coroner office in fact exists. Because it helps not only to keep the body cold, it helps the temperature of the coldness helps to somewhat keep up the body from completely deteriorating. The decaying process, deterioration. Dead bodies are known to turn gray in that. And so you have some people that in fact have been sitting in the coroner's office for years on end. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. There's people that are in fact in the coroner's office today that have been in the coroner's office since the beginning of time. And possibly even dead bodies that were dismembered that police or FBI is having a hard time putting a face to. The coroner's office sits there because it's a storage bin. A storage bin. And I don't mean a waste dump. No, I'm not saying that. But you want to contain a dead body in that sort of type of area and not in a field or out in the woods nowhere where any type of insect or even an animal could get to. See, we don't even know. You gotta use common sense and logic with even that. Because see, I got a brother that lives out in Virginia, Fredericksburg to be specific. Shouts out to Nuke. That's my brother, right? Yes, that is in fact my brother, much more older, but he lives out in Fredericksburg, Virginia, right? And so with that to be said, there could in fact be live awaiting animals out in wooded area in the middle of the night. Yes. And to have a body lay out there multiple nights is to say what type of animal has gotten a hold of even Jolie's body. I hope the family is not on here listening to this, and yet that's something that they would need to learn as well. Not Jolie's twin, but even if she wanted to know the reason and say one of her friends watched this and go back and tell, not that gruesome, but she might have to face that too a little bit later. Jolie's twin. I speak for the family and yet I don't. As in they haven't told me or anything. I haven't contacted them. I might in fact contact them later. But they haven't spoke to me on this. I just know the process. Remember, I'm with Discovery. So I know all this. My wristband should be coming up. My wristband is somewhere on here. It's going to in fact show where I got my hand up like this to show you my wristband. As in the truth. My t-shirt. I got my t-shirt. My t-shirt is on right there. I represent Discovery all time of the day, even when I go to bed. Even in sleep. Because sometimes I can't even sleep thinking about all the research stuff. As in it wakes me up. And so on me saying that, there I go with it. That's just so to show you. Discovery. See the logo and the wristband. The wristband is on my hand. But that's the issue. Because see, the family, that sort of thing, they need to know, and yet once again they're not going to be told by the coroner's office. The gruesome aspect of what could happen to a dead body after it's laying out in woods, and more likely a mother intuition is there. It has to. Shouts out to Cyrita. Shouts to your baby love. Yes, shouts out to her. The beautiful woman and well established at that, I'm guessing and sensing. Jolie's mom. That can't be told to her. And yet maybe this footage, as in my own, me being on camera, maybe this will in fact meet her eyes months later. Because see, what the coroner's office more than likely told the mother and possibly the father or one of the two was that, you know what, it's in the best interest of you, the family, that we in fact cremate. See what I'm saying? Use common sense. Because on the end of my family, we in fact had that happen. Where it was almost going into 2 weeks, say where, yes, one of our loved ones in fact had died. And when it came to the burial process of that, going into almost a 2-week mark, where the coroner's office told us ourselves, you know what, there's no way that this body is going to be able to be put into a casket. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. They apologized. And that was the most painful thing to actually hear. For, yes, a coroner's office to tell us that. They were honest, but they didn't give us no gruesome detail or nothing. They just left it at that. They said, you know what? We're going to be completely honest. The body cannot go into a casket. It has to be cremated. And this individual was not beat on or nothing. Nothing. They just died. Just up and die. How you just up and fall dead, right? People have it happen all the time, and yet to wait to get to them, as in to find them and all that other stuff like that or whatever. Yes. There's all type of situations with that. People have funds, as in money issues, and lame people. People have money issues, as in when they're going to, say, have a body transported to the funeral home, and say they might not have enough money at that time or something, and the body is laying there. There's issues, all type of issues that come up. And so to let a body just be there, as in rotting away, and it's not on cold ice, is to say the body is not going to hold up even in a casket. It can't. Because see, another reason why a coroner's office would say that too is because anytime a body is laying like that, I just said it, didn't I? I just said it. Anytime, because animals or anything or whatever could have made their way up into that dead body, and then you go take it to the coroner's office and put the body on some ice, and then that insect or whatever might not even freeze to death itself, and then once you stand and walk up to the casket, there you got an insect or something coming out of somebody's eyes or mouth or something. Because remember, the eyes and the mouth are open to begin with, and yet I'm thinking the coroner's office would in fact close that sort of thing, right? But you don't know where any type of live living insect is at, especially when a child has been laying out in the woods and not on ice. Any type of, because see, that type of thing you want to in fact leave that sort of thing, as in leave it alone. If you don't know what you're talking about, I'm saying any individual that listened to that guy and was walking through the street saying, well, more than likely they were hiding, the family were hiding this and the family was hiding that. No, there more than likely wasn't hiding anything. People that go and they talk and they gossip around after they done heard somebody like me or that young man talking on the camera, and they go gossip and then think such and such is suspect, and that, no, the family can't hide anything. That mother can't hide anything, because more than likely the mother was standing there possibly in the beginning, more than likely when the funeral home told her, you know what, we can't put the child's body in a casket. You see what I'm saying? A mother or father would want to actually ask themselves, because even paranoia comes in death, as in parents being left behind, grieving parents being left behind after their child is dead first, and they don't know who did it, and now a coroner's office tell them, yes, coroner's office, funeral home, whatever, tell them that, you know what, because that's where in fact happens. Not at the coroner's office is for freezing purposes, right? Cold body, whatever. Then you got the funeral home that does whatever with the urn and all that. A funeral home would more likely make the decision on that, or possibly even the coroner's office, depending on how the situation is set up, because they take in the dead bodies anyway. You got to know what you're saying, the scientific reason behind stuff. That's not gonna work. That's completely not gonna work. That's not at all gonna work, because see, the coroner's office, they in fact work with the funeral home. There's a transportation process in that. Either one, the funeral home, the family, whatever, can make the decision. Either one of the three, coroner's office, a funeral home, or the family, could make the decision of should the child be cremated or should the child be placed in a actual casket. That's a decision by the coroner's office, funeral home, or the family. Is one of the three. That is in fact the truth. Because see, a coroner's office, they deal with all type of lifeless bodies, as in even the mangle process. And them telling, you know what, because they talk to the that's just common sense. They talk to the funeral home. You know what, if I was the family or whatever, that sort of body doesn't need to be seen, as in see the light of day, as in an open casket, and possibly not even a closed casket, because that all has to be documented. That's record keeping. That's record keeping of a coroner's office. Yes, people don't know this, of which a documented saw of a dead body once it's been picked up. Coroner's office go out on the scene and they pick up, yes, dead bodies and all the rest. And I don't mean an emergency crew. That's not their job. The emergency crew a lot of times will go to a scene after a crash or whatever and pick up a body or something and whatever, right? That's because that scene that has just taken place. But anytime it's a lifeless body, a child in a wooded area laying on the ground, that's the job of the coroner's office. So all that in fact has to be documented and signed. Yes, it does. By the coroner's office itself. and possibly not even the mother or the father. The mother or father, and the decision even by the coroner's office telling, I just said that, the coroner's office, because see, they look into everything. Putting the body on code, ICE, that sort of thing. They would let the funeral home know what needs to take place pertaining to even the child's burial, possibly because of what I said in the beginning of my video. That more than likely was documented to the fact about maggots was more than likely there. And something else, as in if a raccoon got to the child's body, consider that. How raccoons lay out and be looking for trash and garbage and possibly even dead bodies and feeding on it. And then whoever, yes, with that, the morgue process. To have a dead body in the morgue is to say, well, what is this bite mark? Did this bite mark on this child's arm, did it come from an ex-boyfriend, lover? Did somebody brutally whatever and stab into her? We need to in fact see what this is. We need to see what this is and why it's there, because this could in fact, as in sharp markings on a dead body, we need to see what that is, because if there is razor whatever, then that's to say the child might have used drugs. If it was some stab wounds or something like in the form of bite marks and yet they can't fully make it out, yes, that's to say we got to look more into this to see what is that. Because see, the coroner's office, they're the ones that usually pronounce death in the beginning to begin with. Coroner's office. I mean, you got other individuals that's involved in that as well, but they come out and tell you when Elvis died and his pronounced death and the reason of why he died. Usually those sort of people come out and tell you, because see, there's even testing in that, as in the blood testing, as in what was found if somebody used drugs or not. Drugs or not. Autopsy and all that. That all goes together. That's not really the funeral home doing. That's more than likely the coroner's office doing. Didn't I say that? You got to know what you're doing when you're reciting information and putting stuff out. Even telling your own family history of what has happened. That's me again with the headphones on. You see that? That's in fact a light, my end. So yeah, you got to know what you're doing, because if not, you just don't. You won't. Coroner's office handle all that. They can tell you the reason of why somebody died. They can tell you if there was abuse at play there. They can tell you, like Elvis situation or Michael Jackson situation pertaining to the drugs. When it came to Prince Nelson Rogers, the singer that died, that everybody loved, I myself in love, isn't still in love with. When they came out and said, well, Prince was using such and such drug that was found in his system, and this and this and that. That was the coroner's office doing and nobody else. That wasn't even a funeral home doing. The funeral home, what they do, they just lay you to rest. Anything else comes from a coroner's office. If you don't know how to find a coroner's office, we can look that up too, as in the research. But don't be contacting them. I'm not saying that individual, that guy that I like to watch his videos, not him, but just random people when they contact, well, let me just see. I'm saying it's better. It helps to be an individual that work in mass media if you're going to do that sort of thing, and not be somebody like, say, the individual that I'm speaking on. See, he knows in fact what he's doing, but he could do a little bit more research further on the foot. That's what, because see, to have followers following you is to have them make their own decision, whatever they want to do with that information. The guy I'm speaking on, when he went to the funeral home. And yet you want to make sure you get it somewhat right and precise, because some people can't use their own mind. They're like robots themselves. They just go off of everything somebody else has told them. That's not gonna go. And I said before, those type of people can never work in mass media, because that poses a problem. Yes, it does. And possibly a lawsuit on the end of the family. Because then the family will think that you're just trying to make up all type of stuff just to make money. Didn't I say that? Making up this to get money, making up that to get money, all type of that's not going to work, because it shows all you want is a profit on your end and nothing else. You really are not thinking and caring about the child with that sort of thing. You want to get next to facts as much as you can. But maggots, I'm going to say two things possibly was at play, as in when JHOLIE's body was laying out there in them woods. More than likely, raccoons was making their way, because I believe, yes, Virginia possibly has raccoons. I lived out there for a few months with my brother. Raccoons exist where I'm at. Sometimes I walk up on the trash and they're just coming out. It's jumped out. I remember one time I walked down there, it was midnight, and I walked to the trash and one raccoon came flying out. I screamed just for everybody to hear me, because I wanted everybody to come out just in case if something else was going on. I ain't too scared of even that. I'm not scared to be, anytime it's a threat of any kind, I'm never scared to be vocal. As in to place myself out there or just scream, to say, yes, scream, holler. Even if it's a raccoon, because I don't know what else is there. He might in fact have made a human friend that's in the garbage can, as in a serial killer or something else, which is why I had to scream. So yeah, maggots. Consider the maggots. They more likely were there, as well as raccoons, making their way around JHOLIE's body as it was laying there. That just has to be. That just completely has to be. That's a science in itself. It's called look it up. Her body was damaged completely by the elements. JHOLIE's body laying out there, because see, in a matter of days of laying out there, you got rain out there. Yes, you do. It could have rained somewhere in that time period of the child's dead body laying there. That's too much work on the end of the coroner's office is all I'm trying to say. A dead body laying there, right? Yes. You got, I mean, it's too much. If you got rain and then say the child's mouth was open, then you got water going into the child's mouth. It's too much. I myself can see, because I see her face and I'm visually oriented, I can see almost herself, the child's body, the way as in possibly how I was laying there out in the woods. The resolution aspect of what you can see. And say what extra work might have been done to make her look more pretty. That's an issue. That's in fact a issue to make the child look more pretty in a casket form after she's been laying out there for a few weeks, 2 weeks or whatever else, and could have end up laying out there more for years on end if nobody would have been out there to say look or contact FBI or police. Individuals contact as in tip off, and you just don't know as in where to go and look, and then police FBI don't say, right? And so, and that sort of thing, that's not going to work. A beautiful face like that laying out there that long, right? And then the funeral home trying to dress up and make up her face in a way that's presentable to the family before the family. Because you just don't know, a mouse or anything could have came up and took a bite or something out of her face. That's not gonna work. That's completely not gonna work. The family has nothing to hide. Let me say that. They have nothing at all to hide. None. Nothing at all. There's nothing to be hidden up underneath that, as in a masking aspect of well, maybe the mother or something knew that whoever the dad was, raping the girl or something like that, so they possibly wanted to hide that. No, there was nothing to be hidden in that. Sorry to say, nothing. That's not going to work at all. A mother going into, because see, they got to pick out all that anyway. The mother, father, sister, yes, twin, they have to pick out the casket in that. Remember, they got to pick out how the child is going to dress in that. There's a makeup process, as in the hair process hair and makeup, what you do on a dead body while they're laying there, right? Possibly on a tray. Who knows, right? As in a mortician, you got it's all type of sciences behind this, where you do hair and makeup on the dead body. And sometimes even then, when they're doing it, they examine the body even further, and some of them even work in that, and they sit there talking to the dead. I'm saying people that do hair and makeup on dead bodies as they're doing it, they would in fact, yes, an individual, yes, stand there. That's not funny. They will in fact stand there and talk to that child's dead body and possibly apologize to her as in what has happened, despite them having nothing to do with that sort of thing. People in fact work in that field of work and write, and they say or don't say, as in they might have Twitter, social media accounts or whatever, working with dead bodies, and yes, standing there talking to the dead body, because anytime you're working to that type of field is to say you want to apologize to the girl, to the simple fact that her life has been taken so soon. To be only 16 years old and somebody say take your life like that is to be somebody working in mass media such as myself. I'm sorry, JHOLIE, because I in fact cried over the situation as it is, as in what it stands. But somebody working in that field, in a funeral home, coroner's office, more than anything, coroner's office, funeral home, will stand there and talk to the individual that's dead, to let them know you didn't deserve this. You didn't deserve this. And you should in fact have justice behind all this as well. Justice needs to be, yes, served behind it all. Shouts out to JHOLIE's twin. I always say Janae when I say her name. Janae. I say it like that because I can't fully pronounce it. Remember, I'm country. But yeah, it's a lot to it, y'all. It's completely a lot to it. And it has to be considered real life. There's all type of videos on this, as in where you could go and look it up. Let's just chill back for a minute, because I'm not gonna, hold on. There's no way there would have been no way for even the funeral home to make JHOLIE's body, as in her face and all the rest, her hair, all that, put enough makeup, because I said if an animal walk up and take a chunk out her face, there you have it. No mother or father is gonna want to face that, as in their child being in the casket with that. And I said about the paranoia, if because when people die, when people die, people, the parents and beloved loved ones question, just like I did, who could have played a part in what. And that's got to be the worst feeling for even a coroner's office or funeral home or whoever. Yes, the one or in between, because remember, they work together to say that the child needs to not be in a open casket and possibly not closed casket. She needs to in fact be in a urn. That will set some parents off, as in them flipping over something and possibly flipping over a casket that's not there. They will flip over anything in the room knowing that they can't see their child, because remember, there's closure in that. To not be able to see your own child and be able to close the casket, the lid, as in watch it as it's happening, is to bring closure. So that's more likely why her parents and all them over there is more deeply in grieving. There's more grieving behind that than even they're ever going to say in the world today. Let me tell you. JHOLIE's family. Because if you can't stand and close a casket on your beloved one, and especially a mother giving birth to a child, to not be able to stand and do that is to say, yes, some people will start to pick up signs of even mental issues in that, because they haven't gained closure. Some people want to lay over their child's casket and possibly rub the child's face. Stand over the child's casket and rub the child's face, or possibly rub her hair or whatever else, and possibly even fix her clothes. That's what you do. That's the right way to have a funeral. And yet to say that sort of thing is never going to happen is to say for even a parent to become paranoid in that, as in, well, what does the coroner's office have to hide? But more than anything, what does a funeral office, I call them parlor because I'm old school, what would a funeral home want to hide in that? I'm a mother and yet I can't see my child in a casket. That sort of thing just has to happen. It just does. Being placed in the urn, being 16 years old in your body, the burning process of that, where the body is burnt up. There's all type of information you have to be able to know, as in sift through. And if you work around people that has already did that sort of thing, as in coroner's office, funeral home, all that type of, they will tell you the science. You have to know even that to work for a discovery. I'm saying the connection aspect of where I have connections and all that other stuff of doing things. Let's just look through stuff. I like to sometimes just come online, right? Because see, I'm the type person, when I talk, it's hard for me to hold conversations with people that can't take the truth. It is very hard. I can't sit nowhere and say gossip about nothing with individuals that can't not only face stuff like this, but that can't say hold a conversation about real things. Because every time I open my mouth, as in when I go to talk and speak, it's always got something to do with something, in fact, that's real. Like you got Logan Paul, Jake Paul. I like them somewhat, right? They're good for the kids, or maybe not, right? Depending on whatever. But pertaining to that, it just, I like to, because I was like, you know what? Let me get on the camera, and maybe I should like chill back on camera, because I like to do that. Watch stuff, have somebody else involved, as in they can watch me as I watch whatever, right? It ain't fully about me. It's all about information. That's why I'm in mass media to begin with, right? Mass media. But I can't even relax unless it got something to do with something informative. Many people don't know that about me. I spend 24 hours a day drowning in information. I'm a tech head as well. I forgot to say that. When I was saying, when I graduated, yes, from college, and I said, well, I should have went to go work for Apple. And the next thing you know, Oprah signs a deal with Apple. I'm in fact a tech head. So, how soon do maggots form after death? This is the type of thing people need to be looking into. How soon do maggots form after death? We're going to skim through this. Yeah, when I'm chilling and everybody hanging out or going to the party or going to the club or going to the bar or doing whatever else, when they're doing all that, I'm chilling in information, such as stuff like this. I'm chilling completely in that type of stuff. When people is having fun, they say, "Oh, you don't want to have fun? Oh, you don't want to go out with us?" No, I want to go out in some information. I do. Hold on, let me fix my hat, because I'm like, why is my hat? There we go. I want to go out in some information, because see, information, I will read myself to sleep in information. That's just me. I don't really like to just party all day, party my life. I don't like to party all day and party my life away, because at any time any of this can meet me, and then I don't know how to handle it. As in, people die, and then you gotta go find the information of why a coroner's office wouldn't tell you all this, or why a funeral home wouldn't tell you all this. That's why information is there at your fingertips and not out of reach. Okay, so when a body dies outdoors, this would in fact match JHOLIE's situation. You see the website. This was printed back July 20. This was printed back last year, July 27, 2017. But remember, JHOLIE, she died. Yes, she did, in the beginning of the year, or what? And so this is I'm going to read it out. See, man, everything is blocking my screen. But the initial phase, it tells you. See this? When a body dies outdoors, this in fact is JHOLIE's situation. So when a body dies outdoors, blowflies arrive within 10 minutes of a death. Did you hear that? Should I read it again? This is speaking on maggots. That's what this website is about. The maggot stands right there. And so I got to show you the reason why a funeral would have been a no-go. Because remember, once again, she laid out there too long. When a body dies, Yeah, when a body dies outdoors, blowflies arrive within 10 minutes of death. A female will lay about 300 eggs while she feeds on decaying flesh. That's in fact why JHOLIE, because this is the initial phase right here. I just highlighted it. When a dead body dies outdoors, blowflies arrive within 10 minutes of death. You see that thing right there? That's something you wouldn't want to get close to even in death. But yeah, so right after somebody dies, within 10 minutes of death, a female will lay about 300 eggs, yes, while she feeds on the decaying flesh. So not only is this blowfly not only has this blowfly arrived after 10 minutes of somebody being dead outdoors, she's not only feeding on the flesh of the dying child, she's also laying eggs in the process. Laying her own eggs for them to come feed on the body. I guess that's a case closed on that, as in I just answer back over that. You got to know what you're doing in the sciences. You do. Pertaining to, well, why would they want to cover up? Why wouldn't they want to have a normal funeral? Not only that, why was all the fake fuck friends of JHOLIE not cooperating with police, and maybe there was suspect as in on their end of them not telling pertaining to the funeral? No, I just answered it. I just completely answered it. That's a case closed right there. To let you have it is to let you have it all the way, even if it gets gruesome. I might even get more gruesome than this. I might. I look gangster, don't I? I look completely gangster. I look completely OG. A flawed OG at that. But I'm just being myself. I don't work with the mafia. I don't do all that. This is just me. Didn't I say I stated before I dress in all black? There's been times when you guys see me on camera in color. As in not in color, but dressed in color. And yet, what I choose to dress in, let me show you something. Look. You see this? Can you see that? That's my makeup, as in what I wear. What I like to wear is all black t-shirts. Look at it again. It's all black. That's in fact what I do. And I got the black socks to go with it. I dress in all black with the black boots and all that other stuff, right? That is in fact me with the black glove. And so, because that's science, it represents what I'm into. Not blackness fully, but to be on camera and speak about death is to just say, as in what you wear to a funeral, possibly. I got it. Hold on. I'm sorry about that. When I be on this camera and I get you hear a hum. Do you hear that? That hum, that is in fact my fan. I need that to be blowing while I'm in here, because see, it gets too hot sometimes and I can't take it. My sinuses or whatever. I don't even have that yet. It takes 20 hours for maggots to hatch from their eggs, and they are about 2 millimeter longs when they emerge. Did you see that? The hatching process. It takes 8 to 20 hours for maggots to hatch from their eggs. Yes. And they are about 2 millimeters long when they emerge. This was happening, yes. And it had to be to JHOLIE's body. Because it say that this says 10 minutes up here when I scroll, and it says that they arrive pertaining to 10 minutes, and yet JHOLIE was laying out there how long? I'm repeating again, and I should, because I want to repeat real good for those that don't know. Okay, so what do these maggots do? This is all death, as in the sciences, and even me dressing in black despite there being no funeral. And yet I represent the dead. I in fact stand representing JHOLIE With or without her mother or father, that's in fact my job, to represent the dead and represent them good, even in black. So growth. The maggots go through a total of 3 instars. That means stages. Maggots go through stages in death, feeding on the flesh of an individual, eating at the rotting body as it's laying there waiting to be picked up by the coroner's office. So going from, when it comes to the growth and going through stages, or say the maggots of what they do, going from the first to second instar takes 24 hours, during which time the maggot will grow to be about 5 millimeters. So that maggot has grew from 2 millimeters into 5 millimeters long. And then it says during the second instar, which is another stage, they go through stages in their growth process, these maggots, feeding on these lifeless bodies. So in their second instar, maggots grow to about 10 millimeters in 24 hours. So not only have they grew from 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters, they have now grown to 10 millimeters in 24 hours. And then they go and they grow some more, which is the third instar. They're growing into 15 to 20 millimeters in 48 hours. This is the process more likely that has taken place to JHOLIE's body while she was laying out in the woods, as in the maggots, as when they were hatching, feeding on her, making babies, all the rest, and then growing and growing from 2 millimeters to 5 millimeters to 10 millimeters in a 24-hour span, and then growing into 15 to 20 millimeters in 48 hours. So do you know how much they would have completely taken over that child's body laying out there in those woods? Going into 2 weeks, her whole body would have been infested with maggots. That's all I'm trying to tell you. That's a no-go. That's not going to, no. That ain't gonna happen. Not no funeral, any kind of anything. You need to you gotta burn all that, as in her flesh as well as those maggots, if you want to have any type of burial, even in her being, yes, in the urn. That all has to take place. That's just where it stands. That's where it has to stand. Let me see. Those maggots, a blowfly, I can't even pronounce that word. That is in fact a corpse eater. The blowfly. Somebody pronounce, I allow you, the viewer, to pronounce this word, because I have been known to pronounce some very gigantic words myself since like the 3rd grade. I used to get all A's and all that when it came to spelling. Yes, spelling bee type of stuff and all that other stuff, right? I was off the hook, which is possibly why I'm a writer today. But a corpse eater, that's a fun fact with the blowfly. You see where I highlighted that? A corpse eater. Maggots will go through 2 stages of development before they become adult flies. Maggots will go through 2 more stages of development before they become adult flies. These are called the pupa, I say pupa, lasting 4 days, and then lasting 10 days. It's science under this. And let me state, yes, Lisa Dorwart, she's the author of this, a corporate financial executive and business consultant for more than 15 years before becoming a writer in 2003. She has a BA degree, yes, in history and creative writing, and earned her BFA in creative writing in 2008. That is off the hook. Because you might want to in fact state your source with that, as in where somebody would like to go back and go. Let me see. That's her name right there. The lady that wrote this article. Let me scroll up so you can see it. See right there. I highlighted it right there up in the left. This is in fact a real dying process, let me tell you. And then, and in case you want to Google that yourself to find out more information, where did I go? I went to Google, of course, because Google is #1 on the planet. I in fact place myself all over Google, let me tell you. And so I put in the Google search, when do maggots appear on a dead body? You see it right there? Can you see it? If you gotta pause. When do maggots appear on a dead body? That sort of thing has to in fact be there. Information comes to me all the time, as in I didn't need to contact anybody for this sort of thing, and yet you would want to do. And looking, I just know the process of this, and so something just told me to speak out and say, because that shows me, that shows off my skills, as in my work, as in when I can do, love to do, and all the rest. And me working for Discovery. Because to get on here and represent Discovery and just be playing a game of nothing, it's to say I could possibly be a failure and loser in that. It's real. It's going to be times I sit on this camera and I'm going to have to in fact show the logo and some of the kids, as in take a photo of JHOLIE, show the different kids, yes, in which even Discovery represents, and let it flash despite me speaking on topics outside of just this. I have to put that there as a stamp, the postage card, right? These are, yes, to me like postage cards, just for you to go and search these people out by face and the situation. Even in me standing here speaking on camera, as in me going, when I said Discovery offline, that's me, Discovery offline. That's in fact what I call this, right? Because to get off a topic and get to talking about somebody else, or for me to create videos that has nothing to do with these missing children, is to still say that the logo still has to stay. Because I think about learning and I speak about learning all day. Hell, I usually am going off a camera on somebody. And even my mom can tell you, she be like, why you be shouting so much? Because these people need to stop being dumb fucks and sit and learn. I do this all day, even in research, while I'm walking down the street going to the store, something like that, right? And so these logos and all this, when I start making more videos and be more forward about who I am behind this screen and who I can be, that's to say that the logos have to stay as well. The logos, Oprah Winfrey's face, all the missing children, her being one of them out of many. Yes, and possibly Jesse Wilson as well. Yes, shouts out to the one individual that asked me, well, can you do a video about him too? That's gonna come, that's gonna be on the way. But those people, they have to stay up, because that's promotional on my end. To feed the story is to give it life. I said that to be the first example. Even in that, I'm saying YouTube, when you flash something and you're talking and you go way off a topic, as in you're not talking about their case, any of these children case, and yet you leave their face there anyway. That sort of thing I would in fact want to do, because I might be talking about something. I want to just turn some music on and watch possibly some movies, even through YouTube, despite the copyright, whatever, right? The striking and all that. I might want to do that type of thing. And yet I'm not going to turn somebody's face off because it turns somebody else off, right? And that I need all this there, because somebody might come and come watch me, and then them not know about a JHOLIE MOUSSA, or them not know about a Asia Degree, or them not know about a Jesse, yes, Wilson, and all the rest of the people, even in which I have served, the missing, the dead, the strangled, whoever, right? That's to say you gotta still continually promote them. I'm the type person, when I go somewhere, I take the person photo everywhere where I go, just enough to show them off. I have did that before with all type of individuals, right? Even in my past, even Janet Jackson. If you don't know, you're about to in fact know what this person is doing and why. And fuck off their haters that because they can't get jobs with celebrities, and so they come try to fuck with me. Why you gotta show such and such face off? Because I work for them, and I have, pertaining to various things. And then me saying that their face, in fact the photo has to be with me at all times, because that's promotion, a level of promotion. That's what I love to do. I'm going to show other people off, even if I mute down my face and I'm nowhere on here. and I go off topic talking about stuff in discussion, their face is still going to be there. I'm saying if it's just a voice, their face is still going to be there and not mine. Yeah, look all this up. There's a science up under that. Entomologist. Entomologist, to be exact. You see this? Let me highlight that in blue. I just highlighted it. It's a forensic entomologist. When I go, because I break, if I can't completely say a word down, I'm showing you even the expression that if you can't say a word down, break it down so you can say it. Entomologist. We used to do that as kids, didn't we? Oh, by the way, Shark Week is still going on. Forensic entomologist. Entomologist. You break it down if you can't say it completely. So forensics. This, I am in fact on an entomologist. Yes, this is an amateur, but even they can be, yes, almost sometimes amateurs. Amateurs love to do stuff, and sometimes they know much more than those that's advanced because they take the time to study, right? And so CSI entomology, insects at the crime scene, all this plays into Jolie's death as well. All of it. The signs are in the reading. Even that. What meets a dead body on the outside, as in on the outskirts of the four walls of a home, while it's laying there to be picked up by a coroner, and all the rest. How long has she been dead? Insects at the crime scene. How long has she been dead? Was the corpse moved after death? See, maggots can, let me tell you, when it comes to my science field, I can tell you, maggots can even tell you, yes, if a dead body such as a Jolie hasn't even been moved. Say for example, if Jolie's ex-boyfriend or whoever took the time to kill her in a car and then scooted her body out to, say, created a crime scene of his own and putting her body out in the woods, a maggots would in fact show even FBI that, or possibly show the coroner's office that, of where her body was first. Remember, there's a first and last, and that as in a playing field where you connect. I love connecting the dots, even on my end. Dear Rubik's Cube and what I like to play with at night. Right? And so, maggots could in fact tell Jolie's parents, as well as FBI, and everybody else that's working the crime scene and all that, right? Those maggots that's feeding on a dead body of Jolie's will be able to tell the coroner's office, FBI, and all the rest of whether the child was in a car before and then if her body was moved to somewhere else. Did you just hear that? Those maggots could pinpoint if Jolie was in a car to begin with and then was moved over somewhere in the night air. Yes, of being placed in some woods, because remember, maggots have a count. Didn't I just read the count? And even the coroner's office would know that sort of thing, because once again, this is forensic science. This is something they love to keep up with on their end. Forensic scientists and all that other stuff and how they work with FBI. All this is a game of figuring it out, as in a solve and a catch. A criminal who did what. And so to know that there's a number count on how many maggots may have been in fact feeding on Jolie's dead body is to say to catch the prey of a criminal where he needs to go to jail. To say whether how many maggots was there, how many maggots may have walked away, even in the mess of even the criminal walking away, or how many maggots was there to begin with. As in when the coroner people came to pick up Jolie's body and them zipping her up, because even the body bags contains that. There's nowhere for the maggots to be going. Once you pick up, some of the maggots could in fact fall off, and they might in fact consider a count in that. Well, when we go to lift this child's body, put it on a lift of some kind, and put her in a body bag or something like that, that is to in fact say maggots are going to fall off in that. So they would in fact consider the number, possibly the count of how many maggots was falling off her dead body as they were standing there doing that, putting her in that body bag. To put a dead body in a body bag is to say the body has been contained in the bag, as well as the maggots, and the count knowing where to go back and backtrack if somebody moved her from one location to the next. Yes. So, how long has she been dead? What was the corpse moved? That was a number 2 question. Was the corpse moved? The maggots will tell you that. When did Jolie die? As in, what did he die of? What did she die of? Difficult questions if you are a police officer investigating a possible murder. A knowledge of insects can help supply answers. Criminals oftentimes, see this? I just spoke on that. Criminals oftentimes try to hide their forensic trail. That points in the direction of when you're moving a dead body from one location to the next. That's what criminals try to do. And they try to hide other stuff. Say if it's other stuff that's there, as in what they might have used, they hide stuff like that. That's tampering with evidence. You can in fact serve time for that too. Dear young love, such as an ex. So criminals oftentimes try to hide their own forensic trail. That means when you're covering yourself being a killer. But they rarely think of the clues they leave behind, which can be read by forensic entomologists. Didn't I speak about that in my last video? Did I not say? Somebody can read back on that as in a timestamp of where I said in my last video pertaining to Jolie and control, as in what people leave behind. And they don't know they're doing it, despite them trying to move stuff and possibly the dead body away from a crime scene or where something has taken place. They usually leave something behind. And that just said this. They rarely think of the clues they leave behind, which can be read by forensic entomologists. Entomology is a science all itself. At the crime scene, at the scene of a crime, a forensic entomologist will read the number and kind. Oh, I just said that too, didn't I? This ain't even my field of work, and yet it is. So every time I see Jolie's mom face, that's my crush of the day. It is. Possibly for life on my end. I'm saying if I keep making story after story pertaining to how where you give life back to the child's where it's been taken. Right? And so, okay, so at the crime scene, a forensic entomologist records the number and kinds of adult and immature insects within 3 through 6 meters of the body. Does that make sense? Entomologists, forensics, they record the number and kinds of adult and immature insects within 3 to 6 meters of the body. So just because a body stands here don't mean they're gonna fully count how many, yes, of the insects are right there. They're going to in fact go a little bit of ways away from the body to count those too, to record it, because insects like to get on the body and sometimes walk away after they got done feeding. Hell, dogs do that too. Eat some food and then walk away, right? But how far are you going? So that's why they count how many are there insects a ways away from the body. Because to know that somebody likes to eat and leave is to say, well, how many are right there? Because that tells as well how many was in fact on the body. Some insects, I don't know completely about that. Some insects I'm thinking will possibly feed on a dead body and possibly lay there and go to sleep. As in, once they got off the body and move a ways away from the body, possibly take a nap. There's all type of animals that love to do all type of things. So the entomologist notes the surrounding habitat type, which will suggest what insects to expect there. The surrounding habitat type, environment, location. The entomologist notes that the surrounding habitat type, because that will suggest what insects to expect there. Maggots. They will note the body's exact position, its exposure to light in the time of day, because see, that helps as well. Because see, there's insects, there's all type of organisms of all kind, and not just insects on the side. You put them to the side when you get to speaking about, say, organism, microorganisms, all that. Sometimes organisms and all that like to feed on stuff like water or moisture, because even a child's dead body laying there will present that the moisture factor. Despite the body decaying out, drying out, even in that. Dead bodies are what they do. They still have fluid involved in that. Right? But there's still wetness with that. A body. Right? And so pertaining to that sort of thing, you know that organisms, many of them, even mold itself, but I wouldn't consider that being a part of a dead body, but many of those type of creatures like to feed on stuff in the dark. That's why a forensic entomologist would in fact say that they note the body's exact position, its exposure to light, and the time of day. Because to say some organisms like to feed on stuff in the dark is to say even JHOLIE's body was out there laying, yes, at times in the dark, where maggots and other stuff were showing up to, yes, prey even on her body, despite her not being alive, right? They note any unusual phenomenon which could affect the insect activity, such as a burial or the presence of trauma. Trauma could affect the insect, as in the insect going, like to go, not want to go, all that. Insects play a part in all that trauma on a dead child's body before the child was dead, right? And then after, because possibly to hit somebody or beat somebody, knock their lights out, and have them laying there with a black eye or something like that, is to say that's in fact going to, yes, affect the insect's activity, as in how they roam around the body and move. What insects might the forensic entomologist find? The first type of insect to arrive at a dead body is usually a blowfly. And I stated that when I looked it up a minute ago. The blowfly. Pointing back to the maggots. Because see, the blowfly is attracted by body fluids and gases. Did I speak about gases? I think I did, pertaining to Relisha Rudd in her body, and when I said there could be an explosion, or say you're putting that line, that quick line that Khalil Tatum purchased during the time of disappearance of Relisha Rudd, and I said, well, maybe he put the child's body in them bags and possibly sprinkled the quicklime inside of the bag. But then I was considering the actual gases of Relisha's body, if that could have, if there will be a taming process with that, or would there be a massive explosion within the bag? Because to know that quicklime is a gas, it is somewhat of, I'm saying the temperature, the rising temperature, meeting gases within the child's body that could lead to explosion. Quicklime itself is its own gas once the temperature starts to rise. Anything when temperature is to say gas is going to, yes, fume in that. So, yes, could a blowfly, that's what that is saying. The insects arrive at a dead body. I specified the time to you. I said 10 minutes once a body is outdoors. A body like that, yes, the blowfly is the first thing that's going to show up. It's going to, in fact, be attracted by the body fluids and gases. And then it lays its eggs within 2 days after death. And sometimes before, didn't I say that? And then I spoke about how it lays its eggs in the stages of, all that, going into adulthood. And so that will suggest how long the corpse has been lying undetected. That in fact tells them, yes, at the coroner's office and in forensic and all the rest of them, that will suggest how long the corpse has been lying undetected. Say if something is laying there and then it doesn't have a face and nobody in the family, you don't know, because there's connecting the dots, and sometimes you don't connect the dots all the way, where somebody go missing and say a head or something is missing, child being brutally murdered, right? Time of day of when the parents know that the child is missing, and say a child is discovered out of state somewhere and police or somebody walk up on a dead body. You got to put a time and date to that. So that does this as well. Ambient conditions affect how soon. Ambient conditions are usually the outdoor surrounding area conditions. that affects how soon after death the blowflies arrive and how quickly the maggots develop. The atmosphere would affect that as well. Then as the body decays through microbial fermentation, flesh flies are attracted to it. That's what I'm saying. There's all type of all type of insects. I said organism, that too. But there's because see, in our body already has organisms as well. In our gut pertaining to, say, the immune system and all that. So the diets that ask, where do they go? They possibly feed on the body too. You never know, right? A live host. So you got maggots and all that, right? But then as the body decays due to microbial fermenting, a body has to ferment just like food ferments, as in when you leave some food out on the counter and you don't put it in a refrigerator or something, that sort of thing is going to ferment. And that's what body flesh does of a dead body, right? So in that process, then you have flesh flies that become attracted. And this is a whole type of different fly than the blowfly. That was all right there on JHOLIE's body. You just don't know it was taking place, as in I just said, right? So later decomposition of body fat attracts hide beetles. So not only do you have a JHOLIE laying out there in some wooded area and her family not knowing, as in they had nothing to do with that sort of thing, the suspect question abodes, not only did they have a blowfly come up on the scene to eat away at JHOLIE's body, then they had a flesh fly. Those are two different things, totally opposite. And then not only that, now you got the decomposition process of the body fat, which now, yes, some beetles are coming. That's what all JHOLIE's body endured. The family don't know that, right? And so, yes, the beetles would be attracted to the body fat. Body fat attracts high beetles, as well as a moth. And a moth might in fact arrive. And after, okay, so if JHOLIE, she was only out there for a few weeks, right? But if, say, the body was out there longer out in the woods, this could point to Asia Degree case. This could point to even if Relisha Rudd was out somewhere and, say, not in water and just out in some woods and police didn't find her. Say after 3 to 6 months, the protein breakdown in the body attracts other insects, such as a cheese skipper. Pyophila, I can't even pronounce that. There's some big words in which I can't pronounce, and yet a scientist would be able to come on screen with me or live stream, yes, Skype or something like that, to pronounce it for me, because remember, that's their field of work. So yes, after 3 to 6 months, because see, anytime I do a video like this and I'm going freehand, as in not writing stuff down, and I'm flowing freely, is to say you will in fact want to prepare for this before. But I didn't, which is why I can't pronounce it. For me to go before and come on camera, which is what I usually love to do, is for me to work the words out, as in me saying them. Saying the word. There's a lot of, when you work for discovery, even if you have to say whatever, you do that sort of thing before the preparation of you being able to scientifically say what the word is and possibly what it stands up for. Let me pause right quick. Ouch, my leg is hurting. There's grass being cut in the background. Dear loser. I caught him out because I'm trying to record here, and yet to be cutting grass while I'm trying to do a video is to say, come on. He could in fact have did it that later as waited. I don't know that man and ain't trying to I don't know him and ain't trying to know. You know, all I'm doing is out and out what I be thinking. How some people, fake people, be not out in what they want to think and say, right? I'm just saying. This will be the time you will cut grass, but why not wait till later, right? And so, yes, there's all type of, so you got the blowfly, right? You got blowfly. You got maggots. You got flesh fly. You got beetle. You got a moth. a moth that might show up. That's 5 different things that is showing up, eating, and more than likely have, and they did eat Jolie's body. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. I know that for a fact. That's what happened to that child's body as it was laying out, even in that night air. Okay, necrophagus. A carrion feeder. Mainly flies and beetles actually consume dead flesh. Others, like rove beetles, are predatory. Yes. Okay, so among the beetles, Dermestidae occur at the later stages of decomposition. Yes, you have all these. See what I'm saying? See where I'm going? This is just too much a gruesome matter mess that even a funeral home possibly wouldn't want to deal with. All these I just named you 5 different kinds of insects that is going to show up on a block on a child, such as they did on Jolie's body. And yet that's not said anywhere, yet it's spoken right here, because I reveal the secrets, as in the good secrets for a learning process in that. There's no funeral in that, and no casket. That's not going. That's too many insects to be overdrawn, and that's like walking in the house being infested with roaches and not knowing how to get rid of them. How do you think that's going to look in a funeral home as a child's body is laying there and they're prepping her for a casket, and yet maggots and everything else is everywhere? Flesh flies is everywhere. Beetles is everywhere. A moth is everywhere, and possibly a moth laying dead after somebody from the coroner's office popped it and killed it and left it there to be dead on top of Jolie's body, so that they can issue that in account, as well as in knowing it was there and possibly putting it on record so that they can keep up with all that, what they found pertaining to the crime scene, the record keeping. Because that happens too. That in fact happens too. Or where say a maggot climbs up on the corner. Ask any one of them. They would in fact tell you how a moth or whatever beetle done got on them, crawled up on them while they were picking up the dead body to place it in the body bag, and then something crawls on them and they have to smack it and kill it, and then let it lay in the child's body bag so that they can count it in with the rest of the other insects that's there. That's something you want, and that's something you would not want in a funeral home. And I'm sorry, dear mommy, I had to say that. That breaks my heart to even say that. Ooh, she's so fine. I can't even take my eyes off of her. Sorry is to be said. I'm sorry in that. I'm sorry I have to break a new love of mine. The new crush, I'm saying. Jolie's mom. I'm sorry I had to break her heart even in that. Breaking her heart, even if she watched this and know that has taken place. That's a hurtful thing. Let me pause. Because see, sometimes you talk about kids and stuff like that as in what has taken place. And sometimes it hurts you in the process of when you look into the detail. There's like a burning in my heart. A burning in my heart. And I was telling my mom about that yesterday. It's not heartburn. It's in fact a agony in which I myself feel. In which even you, the viewer, don't know about. The agony of where I'm not on this camera. And I'm left to feel this way in agony pertaining to these children and how their body is laying there. And not only that, the factoring in the maggots and all these insects to go with it. That will break anybody's heart, and possibly even the mother's mind with that. I said it before. What if the insects found on the body are not those expected? If blowflies are found on a corpse, okay, so what if the insects found on the body are not those expected? That's what I was speaking about, wild animals. And yet I don't think nowhere in this it doesn't even speak of wild animals, because I got laser focus enough to scroll through this real quick with my eyes, as in flashing through without me saying to you, right? But I just did. If blowflies are found on the corpse, which is a closed environment, that mean that the body might have been moved after death. Okay, but we're talking about outside. They're talking about closed right here in this sentence. They should have in fact left it somewhere outside. Well, that was the last article, but they should have put something in this outside. Okay, so depending on the environment, and different blowfly species prefer different environments, warm or cool, urban or rural. You see where I'm going with this? The different insects and what they like to do. Blowfly species prefer different environments, warm or cool, urban or rural. So the presence of the wrong species for the location where the body was found could be suspicious. That pinpoints, that helps to point the police and all them to know, once again, if a body was moved from somewhere. All the insects help to pinpoint in that, because see, it just said that they prefer different environments, whether warm or cool, urban or rural. So the presence of the wrong species for that location where the body was found could be suspicious. So if, say for example, an insect is to be found on a dead body and it's outside, if certain species gather amongst a dead body, the flesh, rotting flesh, and want to eat away at that flesh, right, and say, no, let's flip it to a home. Let's say if a killing has happened in a home, not Jolie's, I'm just speaking about anybody. Say if it happened in a home or in a parked car somewhere, right? But I'm thinking more of a home because there's openness. It's more open in the house, like a field, despite them being four walls, than say in a car, right? Because a car is too closed in for that example. So I'm going to use a home. Say if a dead body dies within a home, and the home is just there for 2 weeks or something. Some insects or something is going to show up some time of the day, even if it's not outside, right? And so in me saying that, say somebody moved that dead body as an insect is on the body. Say somebody moved the body and placed it outdoors after a few days or a few weeks or 2 weeks or something like that, right? 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months, right? Based upon the environment, that's what type of insects are going to show up. So if it was in home and there were insects that showed up and it's not outside, right? And say you moved the dead body outside, those insects from indoor is not going to match the insects that supposedly is supposed to show up on a dead body outdoors. So that's going to pinpoint FBI, police, coroner's office, everybody, of whether that individual was moved from a house to outside. Does that make sense? Because indoors has its own type of insects, right? They just appear on the scene. Maggots is one of them. They just randomly appear on the scene. And yet to have a body laying there in the house, and then those chosen insects, based upon the environment, the home, four walls of a house being closed in, and the temperature as well factor in, and then say that dead body is going to be laid to rest outdoors, just randomly throwing the body out to some woods, is to say a different type of insects is expected to be awaiting you, the coroner. And yet if that insect is not there, and yet it's an insect all over the body that shows and pinpoints back to a house, that's to say that somebody moved the body to begin with or something. I'm not saying Jolie's, I'm just saying pertaining to any of this, the science keynote factor up under it of what needs to be said. And so, because I myself don't feel Jolie's family had nothing to do with it, but to be talking about murder and all that other stuff is to say what can help pinpoint what the insects, what kind be in the house and shows up, what kind be outdoors and shows up, what type of environment was it inside of the house, warm or cool, temperature that shows up these insects. Yeah, there's a flavor in that. Call it an insect, right? And so the insects found underneath the body will vary with the let me go back. The insects found underneath the body will also vary with the length of the time the body has been at the scene. You want me to repeat that? Does that make sense? The insects found underneath the body will also vary with the length of the time the body has been at the scene. This in fact real. You can find this all. This right here is in fact on an amateur whatever, right? Let me go back up, because that's where he got the information from. Amateur yes, every time I mess up my words, the society for them, This is where this information has been pulled from. The other day, I got online. This exact information you will find, yes, pertaining to forensic science. And they, in fact, have did a good job. Yes, they have. This all is, in fact, factual. You can pick up any type of, yes, forensic book and all the rest pertaining to entomology, and you will, in fact, find this. Because as I scour through, as in go make my way to more websites, that's going to pinpoint me back to this information as well, right? So the insects found underneath the body will also vary with the length of the time the body has been at the scene. And this will provide more evidence of both time of death and whether the body may have been moved. The insects in the body, underneath the body, that tells all of whether how long the body. Yeah, I'm repeating, and I should. In the colder months, such as the winter, nets may lay eggs on a carcass. So not only do we have 5 insects of what I spoke on, now in the colder months, which is when JHOLIE, didn't she die around the winter time? That's to say gnats could be found too. Those type of things, critters you see sometime in the summertime. You'll be like, how they get in here? They're gnats. Those type of things could be on, more likely was on her body as well, because it says in the colder months, the winter gnats, they come and they lay eggs on. Okay, so then you got the coffin fly. A coffin fly, that's in fact real. Coffin fly. Coffin fly is associated with coffin bodies that have been underground for about a year. Those sort of things happen once a body is up underground. The adult can bury to a depth of 50 centimeters in about 4 days. That later, all that rest of that going much more further pertaining to the coffin fly, it speaks on a dead body in a coffin laid underground. This is science. Insects themselves could in fact be the cause of death. Did you know that? Say if JHOLIE was laying there, and say she wasn't completely dead, and say some insects or something got there to her, that could in fact have killed her as well. Even the coroner office will be able to say that. They might not completely tell the family, right? They won't want to break their heart in that. But the cause of death, insects themselves can, yes, be the cause of death. Not, I'm saying, I'm speaking in the realm of, say, allergic reaction. If say JHOLIE had any type of allergies or anything like that, you can vaguely see what I'm looking at, and yet you can't, because I can't scroll down any further, right? But that sort of thing, allergies pertaining to, say, if JHOLIE had any type of allergies with that. But this her case more speaks on a beating aspect or something, right? Or a choking or something. There has to in fact be a precise way of how the child died, in which the family is not saying. You can't just say be laying there. I mean, you can't just be an individual such as JHOLIE standing side by side or sitting there with her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whatever you like to call him, and his lies and games, right? The ex of JHOLIE's, and say she just dropped dead on the spot. Because see, that would be issued in as well as in a file to say natural cause. And so that's to say that signs have to be there on the dead body, such as JHOLIE's. And the family possibly knows they have to. There's a record keeping system with that. And with them, they really don't, because you can tell that they had nothing to do with that. I can see straight through. All the way through. No rear view is needed on even that, going back to see, right? And so, in me saying that, even if it was a drug overdose or something, that sort of thing, right? But the family knows what was the cause of death. Possibly a beating by the ex-boyfriend, right? Bruises was more likely there. I stated that. And yet in that, seeming they had nothing to do with that completely, as in the killing her off, is to say us, the public, we're not owed anything in that. The public, we're not owed anything. In that, as in needing to know what was her precise cause of death, despite me wanting to know. I just want to know because I'm looking at that X. That's not to say that's the love of my life right there today. Hey, but not to say I don't care about her or them, but I'm just saying pertaining to me wanting to know because I'm looking at that X right there. That X, her ex, he might, in fact, you never know what type of secret connections I got just to have that man completely killed off. Ex-boyfriend, whether he did it or not, because he might in fact need to be killed off anyway. Because to just be putting your hands on some girls to say you might do that and then kill somebody, then get away with it or something, and then just be walking freely, we don't want that. So you got to in fact die off. If that ex be found dead, I ain't got nothing to do with that. But somebody possibly will. They need to. I'm thinking it's coming. I am thinking it might be coming for that ex-boyfriend. The way that sort of situation took place with JHOLIE even before she died. Putting his hands on her like that for no reason. No definite reason at that, right? I'm thinking death is coming for that young man. It's on the way. I can sense it. He might, what I'm trying to say, that young man might in fact go missing himself. And it might, in his case, might in fact become an unsolved mystery as well, right? JHOLIE's ex-boyfriend, you don't know what's coming. As in what awaits. Because see, to have an individual bold as me to say on the camera what I can do, is to say more than likely I had nothing to do with it. Hold on, let me pause. Man, I wish I would have answered back sooner. Why did this come back? Why is this coming in so late? I'll get it myself. What time is it? Some of these messages, text messages be coming. That's what I'm trying to see. It's good for me to stand on this case, right? The JHOLIE case, because I'm a marker. I'm a marker when it comes to stuff like this. JHOLIE mom needs to know that as well. As in how text messages come into you and they come in late. Why is a text message? I've been sitting here all the time. My other phone was going off, not this phone. Remember, they got two notification sounds on it. Two different notifications. To be two different phones or 5 devices like I got, it's to say they all got their own notification. I heard when this go off, but see, there's a bell as in the calendar. There's a bell set for the calendar and there's a bell set for the text message. And yet I just received a text message a little bit ago that's saying it came in at 1:22, right? And yet it's 3:05. There be hiccups in the communication is what I'm trying to say pertaining to the time. And when you think you received something and it was a completely different time. I wonder if that was the situation on JHOLIE's end pertaining to the time, the mix up of the text messages, of them coming in and sometimes not meeting you at the specified time of when it is supposed to come to you. Could JHOLIE have been killed around 8 p.m. or could she have been killed before is all I'm trying to say. Because sometimes in the communication, I sit right here with Verizon. I'm not unafraid to say anything of what I'm in communication with, as in on the phone. When I use a phone, and miscommunications pertaining to my text messages, as in when they come in at the wrong time. Why am I sitting here and it says 1:22 that came in? I heard the buzzers, all of them pertaining to a calendar, as in the different buzzers I got set. I just said that. And yet sometimes I get text messages, not even on today, while I got the phone in my hand and could be sitting there somewhere out and have the phone right on my lap. I said how I carry myself in public, how I keep my stuff close to me. Setting and no buzzers go off until hours later. And I'm like, well, why does this say it was sent to me at such and such time and yet it's coming in later? Or then my mom texts me, right? We standing side by side and I get it hours later and the timestamp on the text says the time that she and I is standing there, and yet she sent it 3 hours before. or 4 hours before, or something like that. 2 hours before, an hour before. And I'm like, how are you sending me text messages and we've been standing here all alone and it's stamped right now, the time stamping, say 3:08, and yet she sent the text message 2 hours before, an hour before. The mystery stands in that, as in a satellite itself, as in where there be miscommunications and when you're sending stuff to people, because see, that's satellite anyway. To send a text message and have it reach somebody else is to say you got to go through a satellite process and communication, even where that is a mix up sometimes. The timestamp and when it's off. I have been experiencing that for years and I have never said, or maybe I have. I haven't said it on camera, on a live coverage, but I have said it on Twitter and Facebook. Why is my messages coming in? It's timestamped right now, and then when I talk to a person, we standing there talking, I'm like, why is this coming in now? What is going on with that? There could be anything with that. You could be walking through the house and say somewhere while you're walking in the bathroom, it can't come in, so it bounced back or something to a satellite or something, and then it pings back again and shows the time that it's coming in instead of showing an hour or so when it was sent. That sort of thing you got to pay attention to as well. Some people don't pay attention to that, and yet I do. Because to be doing business and get something too late is to say, well, that opportunity is gone now. Pertaining to a time. There, you can go everywhere. These individuals, see, some people can print out an article or make a blog about something, and then you got to go make sure the information is fact scientifically, and possibly picking up a science journal. I like to do that too in my free time. Pick up science journal, pick up law journals too, pertaining to attorneys, because I want to do stuff like that. My mom too. And so these people had to get this information from somewhere, right? As in explaining it out. And many of them cite their sources, which is a good deed. That's to say, let me go back up. See right there in August 2014, forensic scientists, that's to say that they're citing their source. They teach you that in college too. That forensic science being from Alabama State. Okay, so this all points in. The stiffness of death, rigor mortis. I explained that. Let me see. Self-digestion. When a body deteriorates, as in a decomposition, that's in fact self-digestion. Yes, self-digestion. It fights with life. Pertaining, a rotting corpse is teeming with life. A growing number of scientists view a rotting corpse as the cornerstone of a vast and complex ecosystem, which emerges soon after death and flourishes and evolves as a decomposition proceeds. That's after several minutes, decomposition starts. You see that right there? It begins after several minutes. And when that begins, that is called autolysis. Autolysis. Autolysis or autolysis. That's self-digestion. That means that body, everything, the heart stops, the cells become deprived of oxygen. There's acid basically. I want to say acidus, but that's not it. That's more acids that accumulate in the body. That's toxic. There's smells that go along with this. Enzymes start to digest. Enzymes start to digest cell membranes and then leak out as the cells break down. They usually begin in the liver, which is in fact rich in enzymes. The liver, and in the brain. There's high water. The brain, which has a high water content. Usually, though, all tissues and organs begin to break down in this way. Damaged blood cells begin to spill out of broken vessels. Damaged blood cells, they spill out of broken vessels, aided by gravity. Gravity plays in this as well. Dear NASA, let me see. Discoloring of the skin. Some people's skin turn gray. Many people's skin turn gray. The body temperature drops. based upon this, until it, yeah, that is all delves into surrounding as well, surrounding area. Starting in the eyelids, the stiffness of the eyelids begins, the jaw stiffens, the neck muscle stiffens. Before it works its way, the stiffening into the trunk and the limbs. Cells are depleted of their energy source and the protein filaments begin locked in place. This is cause the body to become rigid. Yes, and the joints as well. So during the early stages, all this, you got bacteria that live in and on the living human body. Didn't I say that? I spoke about this. Organisms that live in our gut. That's why you got probiotics and all that other stuff to help in that, to keep your system regulated, as in your immune system, getting rid of sort of bacteria such as yeast when there's an overgrowth and all that. That points in that direction as well. Bacteria, they live in and on the human body. Our bodies host huge numbers of bacteria. Every one of the body surfaces and corners on the body provides a habitat for specialized microbial community. By far the largest of these communities resides in the gut. They're saying what I said. Yeah, which is home to trillions of bacteria of hundreds of perhaps thousands of different species. There's no way. There's no way in no funeral home JHOLIE would have ever been seen by the public in this. The gruesome nature of what I just said. Our body hosts hundreds. Yes, our body hosts huge numbers of bacteria. On our surface, on every corner of our body. Even when we shed skin. Dandruff and all the rest. That's a form of bacteria as well, and can possibly be yeast if that's not. Yes, when some people have psoriasis and all that other stuff, that's fungus, yeast, and all that other stuff put together. So by far the largest of these communities resides in the gut. That points to immune system, which is home. Yes, that gut is home to trillions of bacteria of hundreds of perhaps thousands of different species. That was making its way all over this young child's body as she was laying there in the woods. That's what the family was hiding from you, even though they might not know themselves, because more than likely the funeral home hid that from them as well. To go back to the beginning is to say what I just did, as in pointing you as in my skills. A logo stands up above my head, as well as that. The gut microbiome. I'm saying that word wrong as well. That speaks to the gut right there, as in you got organisms and all bacteria. One of the hottest research topics in biology. That is in fact what that is. Because see, a lot of these illnesses in fact point to that, as illnesses that many people have, such as lupus, whether or not it runs in the family or anything like that, that points to gut as well. Because to have a column of bacteria, yes, in your gut, feeding off of stuff down in your gut, is to say you're gonna have illnesses that come along, such as illnesses as in connection with the immune system, autoimmune to be exact. Autoimmune illnesses play in the gut, in the bacteria of organisms feeding on stuff. The gut health, the gut health plays into autism, depression, autoimmune illnesses, irritable bowel syndrome, and obesity. Sometimes of highly obese people that you see, and sometimes highly obese children, they have this issue where they're having gut issues, bacteria issues that's out of line, where sometimes they overeat and keep eating because there's in fact an organism there. They just don't know it's there. That's why they're always constantly hungry. So when you see somebody that's real blown up, and obese, and they look almost like a blimp, that's to say that they might in fact have gut bacteria in their gut pertaining to their immune system, where the gut bacteria got out of line, as in a wildfire. Yes. With that, the gut bacteria is all over the place, such as yeast. Even that is known to the column aspect, gut yeast. That's where it sits in the gut for many individuals. Hell, it sits there for all of us. A small percentage, but to have too much of it is to say it's going to cause an extreme hunger and hunger pains, And that's how people sometimes become obese, and they're just not eating just to be eating. No, that's yeast feeding and bacteria feeding down there in their gut, and it's triggering the hunger. Because remember, hunger is in fact triggered. That all plays in with the brain. That's a science itself. The brain in fact controls hunger too, pertaining to obesity. As when some people eat and overeat and become extremely obese, that's to say somewhere in their brain, if it has nothing to do with the gut and they're obese, that's to say that their brain has an issue of turning off hunger if there's no emotional issues. Some people have emotional issues, which is why they're extremely obese to begin with. But some of this in fact has to either do with the gut or the brain. If your brain can't shut off hunger pains, know that your brain is a machine operation, computerized operation up here in the skull. It's to know that if it don't shut that hunger off, you're going to become lively, yes, obese, hyper, possibly in the eating of that, overeating, until you blow up, till you can't blow up no more. And there's no coming back. You might in fact meet death being 700 pounds. Oh. So the bacteria, in fact, pertaining to the immune system, soon after death, the immune system stopped working. Right after death, the immune system stopped working, and all that bacteria and all them little organisms and microorganisms that help keep you alive, as in keep you safe and healthy, pertaining to immune system. Once that immune system stopped working, that leaves that bacteria and everything else to spread throughout the body freely. Everything spreads, even the organisms spread throughout the body freely. It spreads all the way throughout the body. Healthy bacteria as well as bad bacteria would have spread all throughout Jolie's body, and it did, from the inside out. It spreads to everything. Because remember, the body is a computerized, yes, device itself, operated by the brain, and once the brain is turned off, then there you go. You have nothing operate to keep everything in line, not even the good and bad bacteria, and it's going to go everywhere once the child is dead. And there you have it. You just have a waste full of mess, and it's the body of the child. It's not saying her, not her soul, because remember, a soul and spirit, or whatever you like to call it, in fact lasts forever. She in fact lasts forever, despite her not being, she was so adorable herself. I said that before. Jolie was in fact beautiful, which is why, yes, outside of Cece wanting me to say break things apart, but to call that out as well, how beautiful she was, is to have me sit right here and break things down scientifically on camera. Putrefaction. The decaying process, the decaying everything. Because there's smells that come with this. Is all type of things you can't bring back, and trying to make it pretty with that. There's no way in no funeral home that's not gonna happen. That sweet, foul, sickly sweet odor, dead body, it will, yeah, kill your nose smelling it. There's all type of videos of all type, even on YouTube, of how they put dead bodies in an urn. I mean, yeah, the process in that. Cremation process. You can find that on YouTube as well. As in how they number you. They, in fact, it goes through a number system. Everything has to be numbered for identification purposes. What is wrong with this? Hold on, let me pause. My screen is too big. Let me go back. I can't work with that at all. Okay. all type of cultures practice cremation. But you do in fact go through a number system, because my dog, we had him cremated, and you have to, there's a tag is what I'm trying to say. There's a tag that goes, yes, with the body, so the body can't be misplaced and all that. You can't really see that. I can't really see that. Hold on. These people need to fix their screen or something. Not me. They're putting that body in that, and yeah, they gotta tape it up and all that. This is the cremation process. This is not a Hindu cremation process, no. This is a dead body cremation process. But it does come up with Hindu. This is what we do in America, for those that don't know, that's watching it on the outskirts of the border. And this video is too dark. It should have been brightened too. There's fire in that. They put you in the number. Remember, you had a toe tag or something at the coroner's office. And then they put you in that box. That part where I showed that they were taping up the box. See the tape? They tape up that box, because to withhold everything inside is to keep everything contained. He's going to stretch that tape out so that you can see him taping up the box with the gloves on. They wear aprons and everything with this. Hell, he got an apron on, I think. Those are the ovens. Cremation process of the ovens. Putting the body in there. 2 individuals. Took two men, grown men, to put that body in there. See that fire going to work? It's gonna do what it does. Then they shut the door with all that, and then once they get done, they're going to use a like a brush to make sure they brush everything, all such as the ashes and everything out, to clean everything, all that, because there's a health regulation in that. You're not mixing up stuff together, such as bodily tissue that has been burned down. There's a health department that will tell you about even that, as in where they gotta, all businesses in a sense pay taxes, and corporations and all them, but that has to go in with that as too. When the health department comes in to even make sure these team of people are doing things the right way, as in brushing things out with that. Them tagging the body with a number is to help keep the identification of somebody, because it had multiple people. It's to know somebody might switch shifts and all that. There's another dead body. Somebody might, he has his apron on. You see the man's apron, and then they're going to tape this one up. It's to say once you're switching shifts in that, is to say that the bodies might in fact get mixed up when one man goes to lunch, or if a woman's doing it, she might in fact go to lunch. You want to have something to be verified, as in a number. You want to have a number there. They smoothly scooted that body over. Yes, they did. See that? Very smooth process. Just slide it on over, put it in the box, and tape it up. He has to have his face mask on with that, because see, any of these bodies, despite them being all taped up like that, the way that the body is wrapped up and all that, see, they got ropes and all that, that helps prevent anything from falling out, arm, whatever. You want to keep everything nice and clean, somewhat orderly, right, when you're doing stuff like this, such as even burning a dead body down. But when that having on face masks, because even dead bodies, once again, they do carry gases, and that sort of thing tends to seep out, as in getting to the air and all that other stuff. There's all type of things that once you start burning things down, chemicals come out in that. And possibly if somebody had a condition such as AIDS or whatever else, that's not to say anything dirty about that. That's not to say that, right? any one of us could have people that were close to the family that died of that sort of thing, such as AIDS and stuff like that. But there's things that, even with medical conditions, that leak out, that seep out into the air, that has to be contained. And the individual working in that sort of environment where gases and the leaking of a scent or all that other stuff, that has to be your mouth down, that as in put on something, gloves, hand gloves, face masks, and all that, because that's a lot to breathe in. People have been known to die because of breathing in certain chemicals in the first place. See his mask? That's his face mask. He has his face mask on right there. He got his face mask on, and not only that, he got his on his head, that piece for his head, to keep that covered. You want to keep everything fully covered in this type of work and environment, because you don't know what is going to leak out in that. You don't. Anything can break out. A fire can break out, and you're touching stuff and all this other stuff. Yeah, fire can in fact break out, as in you're going to put a dead body in there, and then something gets carried away, as in gets sets on fire, and the process don't go the way that it should, and then there you go, being exposed to even that, where you might have to pull something back out, such as even a dead body being pulled back out as a fire is happening. You want to have on protective clothing, such as a cloth, to keep even you away from that, things not getting on your hands and your body and all that. Because see, to say the temperature is up is to say it's turned all the way up. And the metal, that right there, see that sitting there, that can possibly be the bones or a skull of somebody. We don't even know, because to go in there is to say bones and all the rest have become ash. And then he's going to use, see, where he pulls out somewhat of it, that's ash that he's working with, ash from the dead body. You see the skull? That's in fact a skull that has been burnt down completely. This is called facing real life. Hold on, let me zoom back out. You just saw that he has to, you see that? He just broke the skull down. Let me rewind back. That's the skull right there. You could barely see it, and yet you can. That's the skull that has been completely burned up through a process called cremation, to go and fit into a urn. To fit a whole body into urn is to ask how it's done, and to find out is to in fact get on anywhere of these platforms and search it out. Search it out. He's going to in fact have to push the ashes down and then brush everything out so that he can, yes, so that can be bagged. That don't go right into an urn. No, it doesn't. That in fact has to be bagged, because the urn is in the possession of the funeral home. Many people don't know that. The bag is kept in possession by the funeral home, and yet yes, these individuals in fact handle this sort of work, as in bagging it. You bag it after all has been crushed down. He's going to crush the skull. Watch. He just crushed it down. You can still see some pieces of the skull itself, which is right there. That part of the skull hasn't even been completely, now he's, yeah, pushing it down. Because to crush it down in that manner is to be able to fit all of it in the bag and not just one piece. Because if you don't crush that down like that, that's to say that that skull, he's still crushing it some more. See how they drag it out? He got to make sure he gets everything. See him? sweeping and all that has to go into it too. Even if you drop it on the floor, how some people say, well, if I drop my meal on the floor, I'm not going to eat it. And yet in these sort of positions, such as working in the office, like where they're working, doing that sort of thing, it's to say even if you drop ashes on the floor, they have to be picked up and put in with the rest. You don't throw that out, is what I'm trying to say. just because you dropped it on the floor. You don't throw particles of a dead body in the garbage as in a piece of waste just because you dropped it on the floor. No, you sweep it up and put it with the rest. Remember, that's a dead body. It represents someone. That all goes together. It has to. He swept it in, but I wouldn't. I would have swept even that up and put it all together. But I'm thinking, you know what? Let me say this on camera. I'm thinking that could, because see, each center, such as this, office, whatever, coroner's office, morgue, whatever, right? They do things differently state by state. There's even state ordinance and sound, as in how far you can turn up your music in the vehicle of a car as you drive down the street, right? But I'm saying because he's showing off for love of the grieving family. Remember when I said if you're sweeping up stuff off the floor, you put it with, that more than likely could be what they do behind the scenes, and yet they won't show you the public because some people would in fact get mad at that and say, well, they're not, why would you, this and this. You don't know how people do things. As in, the reason why him throwing the rest of the ashes away, despite him not putting it in the bag with the rest of the ashes that's going to go to the family. That sort of thing you really wouldn't want to film on a camera, because some people get heartbroken in that, as in possibly have a fit, possibly want to do a lawsuit on you by them sitting back, because viewers get mad about all type of things. To sit and watch a video and say, see this man picking up ashes off the floor, as in, yes, sweeping it and then putting it in the container which holds the child's ashes or something, is to say a lawsuit could possibly be found in that. Somebody going off, yes, wanting to get over on somebody over at a funeral home or something because they saw this on a camera, which is why they didn't show that. They just showed him sweeping it up and him dumping whatever other ashes that was on the floor and possibly throwing them away. Because anytime you get the taping and filming stuff, you never know how people are going to react with that. But more than likely, when whoever swept whatever up, they could possibly have put it in the container, as in the ashes. He didn't do that, but I'm sure in other facilities they do. Because see, just because some is regulated by state law don't mean that many of these businesses do that. Because remember, you're working with the grieving and dead bodies. You would know that somebody will want all of their ashes and not just half of the pieces, and other missing pieces being missing going in the trash. Some people respect the family just enough to do that, as in off camera, put all the ashes in the bag despite some falling on the floor. I would. Even if that was JHOLIE, to have respect for them, that okay, it fell on the floor, but so what? I want all her ashes there. Whatever I can get to fit in the bag needs to go. But not everybody thinks. People think differently. Everybody handles situation differently, which is why we're all human. They just put another body in there and the door comes down. And there's the bones right there. See those bones? Those bones are in fact broken down bones. Violet, come here. Come here, Poop. Come here, Poop. Those are in fact, yes. See that? After he's done, this video is somewhat clear and clean, and yet it's not. It's completely blurry. But he's going to show you after these ashes and all this. That's why some of the bags is heavy when they get done. The crushing down when you go to burn something down. Crushing aspect. There's various ways that they handle this. That had to be all the way crushed down. That's why it's called cremation. To cream something out is to cream it all the way, as in to almost make it somewhat liquefied which is what the term stands for. Cremation. You're cremifying something in a sense. It's powdery. It's completely powdery. And then that's what's in the ashes right there. He just handed it to him. That's a process. It's called learning. Let me rewind it back again so you can see that again. The bones. Just going to, in fact, pour that in. Just going to pour that in so that he can crush it down, so that it can be more, all that has to fit in a little bitty bag. Did I show that about my dog? I think, let me pull his box right quick. Dude, to make something too personal is to make it completely, as in what goes down in your knowing. My dog, when he died, that's in fact my dog. Big dog. He's the type of dog that military use and all that, which is why we had him, because my father served in military and served in Vietnam War, right? We had him because they gave us the box where we had cremated him and all that. See, gave us the box for the actual ashes to go into. It's got the bag. It's a bag that goes over it, and then specifying the number. There's in fact this metal tag right here. This specifies the identity of the dog. They do that with the cremation process, and this is in fact his ashes. Yes. So to know what you're talking about is to say, even in that, as in the share, what you know. This metal number is a key, because at any time when they put it in a container, you can even smell that. Some people put some of this in their weed and smoke it. I never have. But hell, I don't even smoke weed. I would be crazy if I did. But to specify, even with a dog or a child or whatever, is to say you don't want to get them lost. So despite them having a toe tag, you in fact want to have them have a number system tag in on that. This metal tag that goes with a plate pertaining to even your, yes, burning them down. You don't want to be mixing up identities in that, because that's going to cause all type of problems. It is somebody to lose somebody's loved one in a cremation process. Hell, you don't know. A family might in fact come back and shoot up the whole funeral home. You don't know what people are liable to do with that, because you lost their dead loved ones. Hell, I was watching something last night where somebody was on the road. The coroner, yes, had a dead body in the back of a vehicle van, the transporting, yes, and the dead body actually fell out the back of the van. Something was wrong with the door to the van, and the body was in fact right there in the middle of the road for everybody to see. It was freaking people out. That's to in fact show them that real life in fact occurs. That's the truth. It does. So don't escape real life. He's crunching that up. I had to do a run back on the playback. Now everything is smooth, and that should in fact be able to fit. They have to try to be able to fit as much as they can, and it's usually not that much. You say, well, wow, a dead body, how can you fit all of a dead body into a container bag or anything like? You can. See that? That's in fact where it sits. That's provided big enough to go into an urn. I think that's all to be said about that. He hands it to him and he takes it off where it needs to go. And then they do the next body. Some people, well, as you can see, not some people, but yeah, some people in fact that's their job, right? To work in that field like that all day. Go from one body to the next and doing that. Working in a field like that. Cremating people's body, getting paid doing that all day. You have to stay separated in that as in detached when you're doing that sort of thing. And the longer people do it, the more likely they get used to it, as in it's not bothersome when they're doing that. Emotionally, they're not bothered by that because they do so many bodies at one time. To work an 8 or 9 hour shift, putting bodies back to back into a oven so that you can cremate them to give to the family, as to say you have gotten used to it just enough to continue doing it and possibly retire out in that sort of thing. To have a retirement package in that, saying that you were, helping to, yes, that. So we are in fact on Discovery. Yes, we are. We're on the official website of discovery.com. Hello to Discovery Communications, Discovery Inc. My family to be exact. There's all type of shows which await you on discovery.com. They'll in fact await your arrival. There's unlocked episodes. Shaquille O'Neal, the man himself, he's in fact the face of Discovery right now pertaining to Shark Week. He is. Shaq. What up, Shaq? How's it do? How's the outlay on this? Yes. Shark Week will continue on all week on Discovery. May you tune in to find out just where go, and possibly an animal on top of that, as it's just been said, a shark. They have all type of shows in which you can in fact tune into. This right here is recommended for you, and it should be, as in where you might want to go. Street Outlaws is a good show. It is. Illegal street racing, hello. Illegal street racing, hello. This, no, I'm just saying the joke aspect pertaining to illegal street racing. This right here, it provides the let me scroll over. Can I get that to go over? Dear love. With that, you can't see it. It's not going to let me go all the way over, but there is a description pertaining to that. I'm saying that's for them boys that like to do some illegal street racing, going adrift. Yeah, as in what you might want to tune into and gain some inspiration on that. On last night, the Daily Bite, Shark Week, Shark After Dark. Whatever you want to see and whatever you need, more than likely, is on Discovery. That in fact rhyme. Exclusive videos, the Daily Bite, Fin Frenzy. Faces, let's go back. 30 sharks of Shark Week. Shark's most intense encounters. Naked and Afraid. Savage. Who's a savage out here? Deadliest Catch, Greenhorn. Worst car ever. Whatever your interest is in fact. Oh, American Chopper. Hello. 16 years of motor madness. It's everything. Investigation Discovery. I've went on their website as well. Investigation Discovery. The Crime Feed. We offer everything. Crime Feed. It's all, we got everything for you, dear love. Oops. That's so even you, the viewer, don't miss out. The shows, the schedules. So I think that's all to be said for now. There's a newsletter, which I love to also call mailing list. That is in fact provided below as well. As in when you like to sign up for something, Yes, and they let you know what is popping off in the pop off. And I don't mean a gun, as in a shootout on Route 66 or something like that. There was infecting, was it Route 66? A shootout? Yes, a nightclub or something with Route 66. I said, man, they trying to take it back to Wild Wild West for real. To have a club called Route 66 and then you do a shootout and 20 to 21 bullets or 22 bullets is flying out while everybody is party having. It's to say make a scene in the form of Wild Wild West. And that sort of thing, in fact, took place at a place called Route 66. Yes, it did. People is off the hook. So I think that's all to be said. I will be making more videos in honor of JHOLIE MOUSSA herself. And possibly play a good deed to the family as well. Maybe make something, a shout out to them, the family on their end as they're grieving. Because nobody want to be left in grieving in that. To shout out, that's what people need to do. They need to, people that feel that the family is not suspect as things sit as they is, as in you can see what is what, right? People need to start making shout out videos to the mother, the father, possibly the stepfather. Well, I say the mother and father because they helped to create the babies. The twins themselves, beautiful girls. People need to make shout out videos towards them a little bit more outside of just the suspect videos. They should. Now, some of these parents that be having something to do with their child, as in putting their child to death and all that, I think's not. Continue on with the hate videos and all the ranting and all that to go along with it. But for people that you think is innocent and you can feel and sense in your heart, it's to shout them out sometimes. And when you're making the memorial, you shout them out too, the parents. Yes. And so I think that's all to be said about that. I'm going to be back because a lot is going on this phone in which I can't say. So I will be back, dear love. They're awesome. Shouts out to Shaquille O'Neal. The post is on the way. Yeah, it is. Shoot a hoop in that. How tangible. It's very.